My office called and said, there's a warrant for your arrest.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And I was like,
Really?
Yeah, and they said, you need to call the sheriff. So I called the sheriff and I said, hey, this is Jesse James Dupree. And I hear there's a warrant for my arrest. And I just wanted to, and he goes, where are you? And I said, well, I just crossed in the line into South Carolina. I'm doing a radio promotion tour up here. He goes, when are you coming home? And I said, I'm supposed to be back day after tomorrow. And he goes, well, when you get in, you got to turn yourself in. And then that evening I get a phone call, and that night the SWAT team raided my mother's house.
What?
Looking for me.
What?
Yeah, after I'd called in and everything. And they went in, they just freaked the neighborhood out because there's 15 police cars in the front yard of my mom's house.
That is crazy.
Because that was the last address they had.
Yo, it's your boy Phil Wham Bam Benamino. That's another Wham Bam Wednesday. We're going to rock it out today, baby. So get ready. But before, we're going to ask you, subscribe. Click the button down below. Make sure you subscribe, like it, love it, pass it along, tell everybody about it. It's a show about ordinary people who have done extraordinary things. And today, as I said, I got a super guest in the house today. We got lead singer, we got entrepreneur, we got MTV, we got Guinness Book of World Record holder. Jesse James Dupree's in the house. Lead singer of Jackyl. How are you, baby?
Well, hello, neighbor. Hello, neighbor.
Hello, neighbor.
Yeah.
I am so thankful. I didn't know what to expect today if you were going to come in here with a chainsaw and take down my set, man. I didn't know if that was going to happen.
When the band first started, when Jackyl first started, we actually did that. There was some high-profile radio personalities that were having lunch at a LongHorn steakhouse.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we found out about them being down there, and we had not yet had success with the radio hits or anything. And we thought, what a better way to get their attention than to go in and help them cut their steaks at LongHorns. So yeah, it was a crowded lunchtime crowd. Place was packed, and they were about a dozen of them that were in for a convention, and they were all sitting there. And it was the one down by Cumberland Mall.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And so we barged in there. I had two guys in the van in front, two behind me, and with us chainsaw. And we go in, and I reached over, and I just wiped their table clean, all their steaks and everything.
Did they know you were coming?
No.
Oh,
and
yeah.
There's one guy at the record company that was hosting the lunch that knew we were coming.
Okay.
But he didn't really know what he had signed on for. And we went in, and I wiped all their food, and I carved Jackyl into the table. and I'm so glad you heavyweight program directors are here in my backyard. And, and I'm in character, and he's trying to stop me, and I'm shrugging him off, and then, and I'm still in character, telling them about announcing that the band is here.
Right.
Jackyl has arrived, and he spins me around, and there's 200 people plastered against the back wall, like freaking out.
Wow.
And he goes, you better say something. And I went, the name of the band is Jackyl. Don't let your children buy this record, And he goes, you need to get out of here. So we split and bolted because it was getting ugly. And so the next day I had to get into a car with another record rep, and we took off to South Carolina. And to do a radio promotional tour up there, and I didn't even get across the state line, and my office called and said, "There's a warrant for your arrest."
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And I was like,
really?
Yeah. And they said,
what were the charges?
And they said, they said you need to call the sheriff now. So I called the sheriff and I said, hey, this is Jesse James Dupree, and I hear there's a warrant for my arrest, and I just wanted. And he goes, where are you? And I said, well, I just crossed in the line into South Carolina. I'm doing a radio promotion tour up here. He goes, when are you coming home? And I said, I'm supposed to be back day after tomorrow. And he goes, well, when you get in, you got to turn yourself in. I said, oh, absolutely, So I get up there and I get through the day's activities. And then that evening I get a phone call. And that night, the SWAT team raided my mother's house.
What?
Looking for me.
What?
Yeah, after I'd called in and everything. And they went in, they just freaked the neighborhood out because there's 15 police cars in the front yard of my mom's house.
That is crazy.
Because that was the last address they had.
Your poor mom.
They had, she was freaking. And so
she's probably wondering, what are you into, Jesse?
Yeah, exactly. So we cut the trip short. I came home, turned myself in, And I went in. They arrested me and booked me and everything. And then
what were the charges? Though? What did they arrest you for?
Well, they charged me with reckless endangerment. And
well, I mean, it is a chainsaw.
Yeah, and so I went before the judge and I pleaded guilty to the reckless endangerment. And as soon as I pleaded guilty, and they gave me it was like a $500 fine, and so we're walking out, and they were there to serve papers that we were being sued, and it was a class action lawsuit that actually ultimately cost us $1 million.
Oh my
God! We called a guy named David Berman, who was the president actually the vice president of Geffen Records. He called and he goes, I need to know who all was in on this with you. Because we were doing it for a video shoot. We were doing it for the video shoot for a song called...
Is the video out there?
I Stand Alone. The video is out there. And if you watch the video, you'll see us pulling a tractor trailer rig up in front of Kmart because Kmart refused to carry the record because there was a song on the record that was parental advisory and stuff. So they refused to carry. So we figured if Kmart shoppers couldn't buy our record, we'd just go play for the Kmart shoppers. So we documented a big disruptive Father's Day Sunday takeover.
You were a little bit of a troublemaker.
Yeah, for back then for sure. Yeah, and so we did that, and then we also did some other crazy stuff, and we did the LongHorn Steakhouse. But the LongHorn Steakhouse video did not make it into the video.
You got a copy of that?
I do.
Oh, you got to send it.
But it never made it.
We got to play it for the folks.
It never made it in the video because it was at the time it was the judge had acquired all the footage and everything. They grabbed everything. But it was $1 million lawsuit. David Berman from the record company calls. He goes, if you don't tell me who else was in on this, you're going to end up bearing the entire brunt of this lawsuit. Right. And I couldn't tell on I wasn't going to get anybody fired from the record company because the people at the company were really great to us, believe it or not. I mean, a lot of people have horror stories about their record label. We have a very great success story with with Geffen Records, and which ended up basically being my college. That's where I learned a lot of things that I've been able to apply through the years. But yeah, I said, no, it's just us. And so it was $1 million lawsuit. The record company paid the $1 million and then just deducted it from our royalties.
Right.
But I'd do it again.
That's crazy.
I'd do it again.
Well, you know what? Think about it, though. The publicity that you
I'd
got
do it
from
again.
it. That's what I'm saying.
I just told you.
They always say good news or bad news.
You already know. Right? I'd do it again.
You're in the news.
I'd do it again.
Well, you did do it again. Let me ask you something. Didn't you do on a Tonight Show or something? I think it was Tom Green. You did a show. You started cutting up his desk. You went on there?
Yeah, we were actually at this huge event that I produced up in Sturgis, South Dakota. This was several years, probably 10 years ago or so. But I was in, or longer. It's probably longer now. But I was out there, and the record company called and said, "Hey, Tom Green has a new TV show." Because I just knew Tom Green for doing the pranks.
Right.
Because I just knew Tom Green did pranks.
Right, gotcha.
And when he was
so
always,
you thought you were going to do a prank.
He was always harassing his parents and whatever. And they said, Tom Green wants you to come in and do his show. And at the time, we'd put an album out, and I had a hybrid chainsaw guitar that was built in together.
Yeah.
And instead of a double neck guitar, it was a chainsaw and a guitar.
How'd you come up with that idea?
I saw a poster of Jimmy Page on the Song Remains the Same album. And he was there with that double neck guitar of his in the long pants with the dragon, being broader down the side, and just the definition of rock and roll. And I thought, how cool is that? And then I thought, you know what? Instead of a double neck with a guitar, I'm going to do a double neck chainsawing guitar. And then it was so badass, I didn't even need the dragon embroidered down my leg. But yeah, it was cool. And then so that Tom Green wanted me to come and do the show and bring that chainsaw guitar. And I said, well, I'll do it if the whole band's got to come. We don't want the whole band to come. And they were going, no, we just want you to come and do it. And Tom wants you to jam with him and his co-host. They play drums and bass. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, I told the guys, I said, this is what's happening. They said, well, go and do it. And a DJ from Kansas City, a guy named Johnny Dare, a legendary air personality, one of the best morning shows you'll ever hear. Probably the best morning show going on in America right now. It's great. Yeah. It's KQRC in Kansas City. Cool. It's called 98.9 The Rock. But Johnny Dare was out there with us. He goes, just don't come back if you don't cut his desk up. And the guy, so the guys were going, yeah, don't come back unless you cut his desk up. So So I said, yeah, I'm going to cut his desk up. And if I tell the man I'm going to do something, I'll do it, And so I got out there and I cut his desk up, and it didn't go over well.
He wasn't too happy.
Well, he was taking himself really serious. I mean, he was going to be like the next Johnny Carson.
Right.
And there I was pranking him. And I didn't look at it like that. I thought that I would come out, cut his desk, and that he would grab the chainsaw and finish it. I mean, I actually didn't. I expected a different Tom Green.
Gotcha.
And I mean, a part of me felt bad for, but the other part of me, but the other part of me went, screw it.
Yeah, but you carved his name, not Jackyl. You could have carved your name.
Yeah, I wrote Tom in there. I was respect. I thought, you know what? You're probably the only person that's ever observed that. But you're right. I respectfully wrote his name in his desk.
That's right.
And I didn't take over his desk. I wrote his name in it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Screw all the people that didn't notice that. You noticed that.
That's right. That ain't cost you $1 million too, did it?
Yeah, it did cost me money. So we got through. I cut the desk up, and he was not happy. And if you go watch the clip, I mean, it was very uncomfortable. Yeah. Now I'm thinking that he's just pulling my leg, that he's not really mad. Tom Green cannot be mad at this.
Right.
After all that he's done.
Right.
Putting a turd on a stick and sticking it in his mama's face or whatever he did, crazy stuff. He can't be mad at me about this. But he's acting mad, and I'm thinking he's just trying to get one over on me.
Right.
So I'm just kind of feeling it out, and then they stopped the taping. You don't see that on the show. They edited it out, but he stopped the taping, and he was raising hell with his producer because he thought they'd put me up to it. And the producer goes, "No, we got to keep going. We got to keep shooting. We got to keep shooting." So we kept going with the show, and then it was over with. And the police escorted me off the property, and the fire marshal. Everybody was pissed.
Another escort.
Yeah, and there was a lady named Karen. She was. Worked with one of the biggest publicity agents in the country. That was our publicity agent, and she was with me, and she was livid. I mean, she was so mad. She goes, "They're never going to book any of my guests again. I'm not representing you anymore." I mean, she was so upset, and she carries me to the hotel, and she drops me off at the hotel, and I go in, and they said at the front desk, they said, "No, the Tom Green show is not covering your room. You don't have a place to stay here."
Just like that.
Yeah, and so then I'm dragging my stuff, and I get in a taxi cab.
So now you know he's really
before
pissed.
Uber, So I go down to the LAX airport, and I just kind of laid on the floor until the next flight back to Rapid City, South Dakota. And but yeah, that was that. And but they reached out and said, "We're going to sue you for damaging that desk. It was a replica of Johnny Carson's original desk, and if you don't pay us for it." We're going to sue you. And so we wrote him a check for $8,000.
$8,000. That's what it was. And that's probably $2,000.
I'd do it again.
Yeah.
I'd do it again.
And knock it out. Well, it sounds like you've had more police escorting you than the freaking president.
You don't even know. I actually had my attorney tell me at one point, there was a bunch of episodes that I was going through, and I was going to jail frequently. And I went to jail in Cincinnati one night because this is the time of the parental advisory stickers and stuff, and it was a big deal. And Al Gore's wife, Tipper Gore, she was on this big crusade to put the stickers on the records, Mm-hmm. And it was a big censorship thing. It was crazy, and so I was on stage every night in front of 10,000 people, or 18,000 people in some of these arenas, and I was basically giving the middle finger to Tipper Gore, and I would moon the crowd. And then over time, I was doing it so much that over time, I was getting braver and braver. And eventually, I got to where I'd pull my pants down around my ankles and just dance around for a minute. Oh. And I would go to jail for indecent exposure.
No shame in your game.
No, never. And the point and giggle hour. So and so we were in Cincinnati, and we were playing with the damn Yankees, and Ted Nugent and Jack Blades and Tommy Shaw, and so. They told us before the show that if you pull any stupid stuff, if you show your ass or anything, you're going to go to jail.
Literally.
So I wore a pair of long one-piece, the old hillbilly underwear, the long johns, with the trap, trap door in the back.
Okay.
Like the hillbillies used to wear. Yeah. And I wore a pair of those with my white boots, and I hit the stage, and I just had the trap door open. And of course we came off stage, and I went to jail. Yeah. And I'm sitting in the Cincinnati jail, And I was there for a few hours. And before I heard Ted Nugent coming down the hall, and I went, dang, Ted's coming to get me out of jail. Ted's getting me out of jail. I'm like, yeah, that's great. Because I grew up going to see Ted, and he's a friend. He and I keep in touch now. I love Ted. And,
that's awesome.
And Stranglehold, Cat Scratch Fever,
Lango
Tango.
Big time. Oh,
I camped out for a couple of nights to get front row tickets to Ted Nugent, when I first started, So here I am out on tour with him, and I hear he's getting me out. He's coming down the hallway. He's going to get me out of jail. And they opened up the door, and they put him in jail and shut the door too, because he had shot a flaming arrow into a picture of Saddam Hussein, and on the stage in front of the crowd, and they told him not to set anything on fire. And the Cincinnati Gardens it's a tragic history there, because that's where the Who played there back in the late 70s, I think it was, and they had a crowd get out of control, and some people. An individual passed away from getting trampled on.
Oh, right.
It was a really bad experience for Cincinnati with that happening with the band The Who. So they're really strict at the Gardens, and so they didn't want me showing my ass for him shooting a flaming arrow.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I went to jail for that. And
let me guess, you do it again?
I'd do it again.
You do it again.
Yeah, but I did it. I was doing that quite often, and then I went to jail. The last time I went to jail for that was in Long Beach, where I'd gotten naked with Jim Morrison from the Doors.
I love how you say, I just got naked.
Yeah, I did.
I just got naked. I was on stage. I got naked.
There's a whole nother long story to that, but I did it. It was all part of this big published thing.
Now, did it matter what was going on? Would you get if it was cold out? Would you not get naked? You're freezing. Things are gonna freeze up and shit.
I've never been shy, and you want to know the back? Since you ask, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So I was doing I got naked in Long Beach because I was doing a Playgirl magazine shoot.
Okay.
Playgirl magazine heard about me getting naked, and Playgirl wanted me to do a centerfold, a shoot with them.
Oh.
And I'm like,
so you're healthy?
No, I'm not. I'm not really. I just consider myself to be an average guy, but at the same time, I'm like, nah. I'm not one built for laying on a bearskin rug. But they were like, and the record company was going, no, you got to do this. You got to do this.
Oh yeah. And
so we're in the dressing room, and we were doing some pre-show shoot stuff that they got, and they literally asked me if they brought a lady, and they wanted if I wanted what they call a fluffer.
Oh yeah.
And they
What's
you
a
want
fluffer?
Well, just kind of get you in the moment and somewhat.
Oh, to get
aroused, for the shoot, to get you up for the shoot.
Yeah, and you're like, you just did it to me.
And so anyway, so they said, would you like a fluff, the fluffer? And I went, no, because then it's going to turn into a before and after shoot, because what's happening here versus what's happening in front of 10,000 people are going to be two different things. So it is what it is.
That's
but
awesome.
I'm just as God made me. But I never cease to amaze myself. So that's all that counts, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's all that matters. But yeah, so we do that, and then I went to jail in Long Beach for that, and my attorney told me, he said, Jesse, that's it. No more. He said, you can't do it. He goes, if you do this anymore, I won't be able to get you out, and you're going to be in some big trouble. So, because it just gotten really out of hand with what was following me around with it,
Gotcha.
And so anyway, but I mean, that was.
So did you do it again? I just gotta know. Did you do it again? Did you do it again?
I do it again.
You do.
Here's the thing: I'll catch a bullet with my teeth if the camera's rolling.
Yeah.
But I'm not looking to go. But I mean, that's just the beginning. I mean, little did I know all the other things that I ended up doing. I've been shot out of a cannon. I've been blown up. I've been blown up in a box of dynamite. I've rode.
Oh, slow down.
I've rode a motorcycle.
Blown up in a box of dynamite. How does that happen?
Well,
is this a show you produce or something?
No, I executive produced reality TV shows.
Right. Okay.
And I'd produced a show called Two-A-Days. I don't know if you remember or not. It was on MTV.
Okay.
And it was a show about a fanatical high school football program called the Hoover Bucks.
Uh-huh.
And the Hoover Bucks were going for their 4th straight state championship. And they were a dynamic football team. They're in a small town of Hoover, Alabama, south of Birmingham. And the Booster Club raises $500,000 a year for this.
Oh, yeah. We played them over in Alpharetta. Coach Alpharetta, we played over.
The Hoover Bucks.
Oh, yeah.
And a great team. And a guy named Coach Probst was the dynamic guy.
Yeah.
And so he was TV gold. He was very dynamic. And then the kids were all good looking, beautiful, perfect television material, and they great team that was winning, all the time. So we went over and we documented what the kids were going through, balancing their schoolwork and their girlfriends, and some of them working, and the different things they were doing, and their football.
Right.
And the kids would be moved across the country. Their parents would move their kids across the country to go to that school because they wanted them to be discovered by scouts. College scouts, and they would be wearing the coach out. Play my kid on offense and defense and special teams, and they'd just be wearing it out. And then as soon as the scouts would put their finger on the kid and start spotting them, then the parents would be telling the coach, "Stop playing my kid so much," because they didn't want them to get hurt because of their college scholarships. And but the team was great, and so we did a couple of seasons of that I was executive producing, and then I was in Sturgis, and my partner and I, Mike Ballard, and at the time he was just opening the Full Throttle Saloon.
So let's talk about Sturgis real quick. Tell the viewers real quick, because you actually own a saloon there, right?
Yeah, well, so Michael Ballard, my partner, back in 1999, I got booked to play in Sturgis at this new place that was opening up, and it was the Full Throttle Saloon. And Michael and I made fast friends. And at the time, I was signed to David Geffen, the Geffen Records, Nirvana, Aerosmith, Whitesnake,
right? All the big boys,
Guns N' Roses.
You're one of them.
Elton John. Yeah. Just all these incredible artists that share. Everybody that was on Geffen Records, and that was my college.
God,
and
those days changed.
Yeah,
you just brought me back, man. I just think about what it was and where it is today.
Yeah.
It really
it was a big deal.
Yeah.
The record business was really an incredible thing back then. And but there was a new word that people didn't really know at the time, but it was a brand new word. It's called branding. Mm-hmm. Branding.
Right.
What is branding? And
you did it with a chainsaw.
What is branding? I was
you did a lot of things with a chainsaw.
I was fascinated with branding, and so I went to Nashville and I asked my attorney. I said, I want to learn about this word branding. I want to know the really depths of what it means to brand, and what are the laws associated with it in regards to the rule of thumb of how you do it right. And so we called a guy named Dave Laurie, who we knew from the music business. He managed the Allman Brothers, and we called Dave, and he was working for a company called J. Walter Thompson, and J. Walter Thompson has handled Ford and John Deere.
Right.
For 150 years. They've been around, whatever. Yeah. And they're the godfathers of branding and marketing, right? Mm-hmm. And so we went to New York, and we sat down with that team then, and I was green, but all the executives came in, and for some reason they took a good chunk of their day, and I asked the dumb questions, and what is branding? And they gave me a lesson in it. And then we went to LA. And
what was the biggest thing you learned from it? What was one thing you took from that? Because a lot of people today,
I can answer that.
Because you got a lot of people today, they hear things, but they don't dip in like you did. Like you said, hey, I made a commitment. I went and wanted to know a little bit about this.
Yeah.
In fact, I took a trip to New York.
Well, we went to New York
to sit down with executives and to learn from somebody that would know something more than you.
Well, there's the rule of thumb stuff that they teach in college, and that these guys, administer in the fact that, to build a brand, you have to make. Back then, it was the average was say 3 to 5 touch points, so impressions. So if you hear about it on the radio, read about it in the newspaper, and see it in the store, then you're inclined to buy it, whatever it is.
Right.
And so that was all post COVID, and then it was that many 4 to 5 impressions that it would take to get someone to want to buy something. Mm-hmm. And then, but the other side of it that's more important is the value of relationships, and how when you put strategic partners together, and how you make sure that everybody's a winner, so that you don't just do something once. Right. You do it over and over and get better and better. Right. More of what works and less of what doesn't. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that was my takeaway from those. So it really simplified it for me. And if I had not had those meetings with Steven Spielberg's company and as well as J. Walter Thompson, I don't think I would have approached it the same way that I did. But so what I did was I started looking at what I had in front of me. And so when I met Michael, I realized that my audience that had bought the couple of million records and that we had made the impressions in branding, hindsight being 2020, by playing the shows, getting the publicity for going to jail,
right?
Being played on the radio. We were making those 3, 4, 5 impressions,
right.
Playing live and whatever. And so I looked around at all the guys and ladies that were in Sturgis riding their Harleys and such. This is my audience. This is blue collar America, people that bust their knuckles 40, 50 hours a week or more, hammering out a living, And so this is who that I belong with with these people. And then Michael had this incredible Full Throttle Saloon, and I had all these radio relationships. So I went to him and I said, let's partner and on a broadcast, a Full Throttle broadcast, much like what you do here with this. Mm-hmm. And I went to Zippo Lighters. And Zippo was a vendor out there, and I got them to get me in touch with corporate. I said, hey, I need a dozen Zippo lighters for every radio station I bring to Sturgis, and they need to be branded with the radio station's logos on them.
That's it.
And so the Zippo said, okay, what else are you looking for?
Right, that's a no-brainer.
Just give me 12 lighters for every station I bring out that's got their logos on it. So I used those lighters for qualifiers. I brought 8 stations out the first year. So I had a dozen lighters for 8 stations, 8 for each got their dozen lighters with their logos. And we used that for qualifiers. And out of everybody that got won a lighter on the radio, qualified to win a trip to Sturgis. So we did that. And over the course of the 8 weeks that we ran the campaign, we got an incredible amount of impressions and traffic to Zippo and a lot of things. And then I went back to Bradford, Pennsylvania, which is where Zippo's based the next year. And I sat in front of the marketing guy. I said, look, I don't know what you're used to. I didn't go to college. I reinvent the English language every time I open my southern mouth. I play a chainsaw on stage. I've went to jail before for showing my ass, but this is what I do. And so I don't know what other people are doing for you, but this is what I do. And I don't want to negotiate with you every time I come to you with something. I want you to put me on a retainer, and I'm going to think about Zippo with everything that I do, and we're going to do more of what I'm doing. And they said, okay. And so I ended up I was under contract for Zippo for 5 years, and put a lot of the marketing assets and models in place that they still use today. Yeah. And with the concert. And then Sidney Frank, who brought Grey Goose and Jägermeister to America, they heard about what I was doing, and he's like the Elvis of liquor. Sidney Franks was, and with bringing those big brands, he.
I know, man. You got some pretty good.
Well, I didn't have these. I didn't have these then.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
So at the time, I was consulting for them for 5 years, and then I started working and building the relationship with the Harley Davidson dealerships, and which ultimately led to where I have a 10-year master services agreement consulting the Harley Davidson Motor Company, and so that's where I've elevated my marketing and branding. So they're basically
paying you to help them brand
Harley
Davidson? That's big.
I consult Harley Davidson on being better partners with their dealerships and vice versa, the dealerships to be better partners with it. And we do that by virtue of doing these big campaigns. I have a series called the Rolling USA series. So there's Rolling Daytona, which is an 84-year-old event this year. Rolling Laconia, which is a 103-year-old motorcycle event up in Laconia, New Hampshire. Rolling Milwaukee, which is Harley Davidson's birthplace, celebrating 124 years this year. Rolling Sturgis, of course, 85th anniversary. So all these legacy events, I do these 6-week campaigns, and there's one going on right now for Rolling Daytona. You go into a participating dealership, you scan the QR code, and you register to win. You'd be one of 10 people to win a 3-day trip for 2 to Daytona Bike Week. The 10 people will be on stage with me on the last night of the bike week. They each get to pick a key out of a bucket, and if their key unlocks the forks and cranks the bike, they win it.
Wow. You're giving bikes away.
We just gave away our 22nd Harley Davidson motorcycle in the last couple of years.
What was it like, man, when you gave away your very first one?
It never gets old. I mean, to hand someone the keys, I know what it's like the day that I bought my first Harley Davidson. I mean, I grew up, my dad had a bike, and the day that I bought my own Harley Davidson, I literally sound hokey, but I mean, it's true. I literally felt like I became my own man because I bought my own Harley Davidson. And And so to hand the keys to an individual, man, woman. I mean, we've had winners of all ages and both genders and everything. And it's just to hand the keys to someone is just the biggest thrill ever. I mean,
and a lot of times they could never have a vehicle like that.
They could, no. I mean, and I tell you, one of my favorites stories. They're all my favorite, but one of my favorites is there's a gentleman that won the Rolling Daytona a year before last. 27-year-old, good-looking young fella that was a police officer for Florida, and the day that we presented him his bike at the dealership when he picked it up, the entire police department showed up.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it kind of chokes me up because it was just it was really an emotional thing, and they all rode, and he had ridden with them, but he had an old beater bike. Just he couldn't afford. He couldn't afford the bike that he won.
That's awesome.
And to give it to someone like him that's busted his ass to get on the right track and do good stuff is cool. But I mean, we got a lot of great stories like that.
That's super cool. Super cool. Well, you've done so many cool things, but I got to get back. I want to ask you a few questions about your singing because I know viewers want to know what got you starting into the music business. Like, were you playing instruments? Was your mom and dad singing? Like, how did you become? Because that's really where you got your fresh start and where you started making.
Well, I started playing guitar at 15, and started, but it actually I didn't realize that I actually got my start. Even when I was still a kid wearing the pajamas with the plastic feet in the bottom of them. You remember those?
Oh yeah.
And I miss those. I may get me another pair. But I was. I remember my mom sometimes it's like she'd wake me up to come stand in front of the television because Little Richard was going to be on Johnny Carson or something, and just, or maybe it was Frank Sinatra and Don Rickles on Johnny Carson or an Elvis special or, and I remember just standing in front of the TV trying to keep my eyes open as a kid. But so that stuck with me. And then my dad lost his job at Lockheed Aircraft in 71, 72. And I came home from school one day, elementary school, and my dad had sold everything we had, including my bicycle. And we moved to Gadsden, Alabama, because my dad didn't have a 10th grade education. And so that was a union job at Lockheed. And when he got laid off, he freaked out because he couldn't afford what we had, which was just a lower middle class house.
Right.
So we moved to Gadsden, Alabama, of all places, where my parents were from, and we were about a quarter of a mile down the road from a big steel plant. And my dad bought a cafe, and he couldn't even boil water, and he bought a cafe. And at the time, franchises were still fairly new. Kentucky Fried Chicken, McDonald's. Kentucky Fried was actually one of the first franchises in America. So my dad went to work for Kentucky Fried Chicken because he was going to steal the Colonel's recipe, and the 11 herbs and spices.
Yeah, they work out.
Yeah, and so but back then they used to quarter their own chickens, and my dad accidentally cut his thumb on the bandsaw, and he said, "Screw this!" And so we specialized in farm-raised, grain-fed catfish, and but in that cafe was and by the way, the majority of the customers in the cafe were the tractor trailer drivers that were hauling the steel out of the steel plant. So it was just, again, just the hardest working of blue collar America, living in our diner for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, as they were making their runs, and we got to be friends with all of them and such. But there was a jukebox, and on that jukebox were the 45s. And the guy would come and change the 45s out. And when he would change them out, he would give them to me. And I would wash a 5-gallon pickle barrel out, a little pickle bucket, and I'd keep my 45s in that. And we lived in a mobile home trailer in the back.
I'm laughing because I know some of the younger generations going, what's a 45?
Yeah, 45.
They're thinking about a gun and stuff. They're not thinking about a record.
But we lived in a mobile home trailer in the back of that asphalt parking lot with a 15-foot high wall on the back side of that mobile home trailer. If you open the back door of the trailer, hit the wall. And all my friends were in Georgia, so I would just go into the back room of that mobile home and play my 45s. But you got to remember this is like the early 70s. So the music that was on that jukebox was Deep Purple, the Rolling Stones, Otis Redding, and my favorite was Joe Tex.
Oh yeah,
you remember Joe Tex? Do you know who Joe Tex?
Yeah.
That's where, again, when I look back, that's where I actually started. I didn't know I was starting, but that's where I learned how to do what I do, because he had the best rock and roll voice in. I got you. Thought you got away now, didn't you? Well, now give it here. Come on. Promise me the day that you quit your boyfriend, I'll be the next one to ease on it. So
you got it, baby. You got it.
But as a young kid, turning 13, and my friends in Georgia, and that all I had was that music, and I would just to the top of my lungs emulate Joe Tex, and Deep Purple and the Rolling Stones and stuff. But I was really fascinated by the black singers that could do that. James Brown even and such. Pop's got a brand new bag and stuff. But and Sex Machine and all that stuff. But get up, get on up. So that's looking back. I wasn't aspiring to be in a band. I was just, to be honest with you, I was missing my friends back in Georgia and throwing myself into music. And then I moved back to Georgia. But when we were in Alabama, I saw the dirty side of life. I mean, I was exposed to everything from smoking and drinking and sex and the whole 9 yards, which was so far out of the bubble that the kids in that neighborhood that I grew up in Georgia. And so when my dad got hired back on, about going on 3 years of being in Alabama, when we go back to Georgia, my friends over there that I was getting reacquainted with, they were excited about playing Spin the Bottle, and I'm like, okay, because I'd already moved on down the road.
You were doing more than that.
And we like I say, I'd seen the dirty side of life in Gadsden, but so I got disinterested in that quick, and I was trying. I grew up playing football in the weight divisions and stuff, but in high school I weighed 150 pounds soaking wet at the most, probably not even that. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to even compete to play in, as everybody was growing up and getting 250 pound linemen and stuff.
Right.
And I wasn't fast enough to be a corner or a running back or any of that kind of stuff. So I really started putting myself into guitar, and then I found Underground Atlanta. And my mom was really cool. At 15 years of age, I had a buddy that was 16, and she'd let us go to Atlanta and watch the bands play. We'd sneak into, the drinking age was 18.
Right.
So we'd sneak into the bars, and I just made a deal where as long as I didn't drink, I could go and watch those bands.
Okay.
And we'd pay somebody's way in, and they'd come out and we'd lick the stamps, and we'd wait till a crowd, and we'd go in and we'd watch the bands. And I didn't drink because of her, but when I hang out with my buddies and stuff, we'd drink. And again, I was young, 15, 16 years old. And then, but I started noticing, because I was seeing some incredible musicians, and I was wondering, why haven't they made it? And then I'd see them at the end of the night, and they'd have a girl on their arm and an 8-ball in their pocket and a good buzz on it. And I'd say, I guess they've made it,
Right.
And so I made a commitment then. I'm not going to drink, and I didn't drink for 18 years.
Really?
Yeah. I walked out of bars sober and pissed off about it, but I stayed focused and was driven and determined. I didn't even get my ears pierced. I said, I'm not getting my ears pierced until I get a gold album.
So all your performances on stage, but you were sober.
Yeah. And then
showing the ass, going to jail,
everything sober.
Unbelievable.
And then
I never knew that.
Yeah.
See?
And then sober, and then never drank. I didn't smoke.
Because rock and roll, man, you got,
No, I was just always. I did not want to pour concrete anymore. I didn't want to drive nails. I didn't want to. I wanted to go have my dreams come true. And I was coming from such a deficit in Kennesaw, Georgia, with no playbook of how to get there.
Well, I'll tell you what, that gives a little bit more insight of why you've been so successful.
Yeah, and so thank you. But we were very driven with the band.
That's hard to do, dude. Especially and listen, these viewers, like back in the day, being a superstar like that, being a rock star, being in front of 20,000 people. I mean, you hold the Guinness Book of World Record, and you got to explain this one to me. 20 shows in one day.
We did 21 shows in 24 hours. Yeah.
21 shows. How do you do that?
We did that in a radio station's a big room off the side of a radio station, and the radio station would change the audience out. And the Guinness Book laid the records. Every show had to be a minimum of 30 minutes long. Then it's 15 minutes to change the audience out, and 15 minutes to
Gotcha.
And so.
Gotcha.
And we did that for 21 hours, and I sang my ass off for the first 17 of those shows, and then then I was wore out. But it was
you
a
got
lot.
the second
It was a lot.
one, too,
We did
50
100 shows in 50 days.
Yeah.
But it was a lot. And then
but there's a lot of pressure.
but
with that.
all of that is actually cute compared to what before we ever got signed. We were so desperate and to get signed, and we were playing these showcases around the Southeast. There was the New South Music Showcase and the Extravaganza in Nashville, and there were all these showcases around that bands were trying to get signed at. And we were playing those, and we were all just rednecks from Georgia, and we would be on the bill wherever we were on the bill to play. But if a record guy walked in, we would send our road crew up to unplug the band that was playing and move them off the stage so we'd play.
Oh, really?
And if anybody said anything, be ready to fight.
Yeah.
Either you're going to get out of the way or we're going to beat your ass because we're going to play for this record guy. I mean, it was that aggressive. It was very aggressive. Yeah. And
what was the hardest thing, man, putting your band together?
Well, I'll tell you. Yeah. So we had done those showcases, but no record deal. And there was a junior A&R guy from Geffen Records that came out to see us play, and he wanted to have lunch with us. So we thought, well, that's cool. But nothing happened with it, and he didn't have the autonomy to sign us. But I'd gotten his phone number, and so we floundered around for another month or so, and then I called him up and said, hey, I got to have you help me. What can we do? What can we do? And he said, well, why don't you come and play some clubs out here in Los Angeles? And we'd never been to LA before. So I said, okay.
That's a commitment.
Yeah.
Because there's a cost expense.
Oh, yeah, and we're broke.
Right.
And so I borrowed $1,800 against a New Year's Eve show we were going to play at Charlie Magruder's, which is a club here. It was a famous club here in Atlanta. And I took that money and in cash, and I went, and there's a buddy of mine's wife had a credit card because none of us had a credit card. And she let us use her credit card, and we rented a Dodge Grand Caravan. And all 9 of us, the band and the 4 crew guys, we all got in that Dodge Grand Caravan. One guy sat on a milk crate with a pill on it, and another guy had to sit in the back behind. We'd have to shut him in the hatchback in the back.
Right.
And we took off to L.A., and I gave everybody $6 a day to eat on. And we lived in one motel room, not a hotel, but a motel. We lived in one motel room down in Compton. And we lived down there for 2 weeks, and I gave everybody $6 a day, and we ate 3 for $1 hot dogs and hamburgers at the AM/PM convenience store. That's what we lived on. And we lived out there, and we played all those places, and all these record people were coming out to see us, and we had a really huge buzz going. And but no John Colodner. It wasn't we just got signed. I knew that we wanted John Colodner to sign us. We all knew that John was the guy.
He's one.
And he was the guy that signed Foreigner and AC/DC and Aerosmith and just all these. And so while we were starving and desperate, hungry, I mean, it's just we had these guys that were, but John Colodner didn't come and see us. And we had an attorney that was representing us. And I said, why is John Colodner not coming and seeing us play out here? And my attorney says, well, John is very competitive with Tom Zutot, who Todd, the little junior A&R guy, worked for. And he goes, if I take you to John, Todd's boss is going to get mad and probably fire him. And I said, I've just lived in a motel room for 2 weeks like a dog. And you're telling me this now? And the whole band we were out of money. The band was in the van. We were headed east. We were driving back that night after that last show. And I said, I'm getting in that van and I'm driving to Georgia. And by the time I get to Georgia, you better call me and tell me John Colodner's coming to see us play, or I'm coming to Nashville. I will find your dumb ass and I will tar and feather you. And that's a quote unquote what I told him.
I believe it too.
I said, I seriously, I will tar and feather you.
Right.
And by the time I got to Atlanta, I got a phone call from him when I got home that said, John Colodner's going to come see you. And John came into Atlanta, saw us and signed us. It's
what
funny.
was that day like? Signing?
It was great. So they told us, they said, don't expect John he's going to come to the show. He probably won't stay for the whole show. He'll probably you won't be able to go eat dinner or lunch with him, because we were hitting all these record guys' credit cards hard. They were taking us out to eat lunch and dinner.
Right.
And we were eating because that was the best meals we had.
Sure.
And we thought, well, we'll at least get a good meal out of him. They said, nope, he's not going to be able to take you to eat. Don't expect him to stay for the whole show. You probably won't even be able to talk to him. Mm-hmm. So we're like, okay, whatever. So let's just do it. So we go in and we're playing, and John comes in. He's famous for wearing a white suit. Kind of look like he was working with John Lennon the night John got shot. Oh, wow. He was John Lennon's record company guy.
Right.
So in honor of John, he wears white suits like in the little round. I mean, he looked kind of like John. Yeah. But he came in, and he stayed for the whole show. He came back in the dressing room. He talked to us. And he invited us to go to lunch the next day. So we went to the California Pizza Kitchen at the mall over in Buckhead, whatever that mall is, Phipps Plaza, whatever that was.
Plaza, yeah.
And so we go to the California Pizza Kitchen. We thought we were going to get a really nice dinner. He goes, meet me at the food court. So we go to so we sat down at the California Pizza Kitchen, and we're sitting there and I'm sitting across from him. And we didn't even get our butts in the seat. And he goes, well, I'm going to sign you guys. And we were like, oh, man. He goes, under 2 conditions. And we said, okay, what's that? And he goes, 1, you guys have got to stay on the road. You can't come off the road. You got to stay out there. And we were like, not a problem. And he looked at me and he goes, you got to lose 7 pounds.
That was it? That was number 2?
It wasn't 5, wasn't 10. It was 7. You got to lose 7 pounds.
No, was it in the ass? Did you see the bare ass? Is that what it was?
No, he goes, he goes, I want you to look hungry.
Oh, okay.
And so I
you're
said,
only eating hot dogs and shit. You got to be.
I was small then. I mean, I was small in front of him, but he wanted me to lose 7 more pounds. And so I sat there and watched them eat. And I didn't eat.
Hi, I'm Phil Benamino, CEO and founder of Cost Plus Processing, the company that provides financial services to your business. We provide things such as POS systems, ATM machines, and check services. One of the biggest things that we strive ourselves here at Cost Plus Processing is our customer service. We are an A+ rated with the BBB with customer service, and we're proud to say we're here in the United States with all of our customer service agents. Our objective is to actually teach you and educate you about the costs that you're currently paying and show you ways where you can eliminate those costs that you no longer have to pay. One of the biggest programs that are out there today is our dual pricing program, where you actually can offer your customers now a choice of how they want to pay. Do they want to pay with cash or do they want to pay with card? And if they pay with card, it actually helps you to absorb the card fees, so you no longer have to pay the fees like you've done for many, many years. Cost Plus Processing aligns ourselves with some of the top POS companies out there in the industry today. For example, we have perfected the car dealership industry, and our dedicated team are equipped to manage a variety of online payment forms and financing options that merchants require in this advanced ecosystem of payments. If you have a restaurant, we are proud to be able to manage the ongoing difficulties that arise from this fast-paced industry, and you're looking for pay at the table, where customers can easily swipe their cards, tap their cards, and make their payments with tip, and also have a choice of how they want to pay, we have the solutions for you here at Cost Plus. We want to help other small business owners make their dreams come true by providing the best financial support. From barbershops to liquor stores, having the ability to take payments scheduled online and make calculating tip sharing an easy task only helps business owners put more attention and money into what really matters the most. Also, Cost Plus Processing is on the front end of AI. We can also provide you kiosks for your business, so customers can walk over to the kiosk and order anything that they want. Likewise, if you're having problem getting employees in the kitchen to work, we can also provide you robots that will actually deliver your food straight to the customer. I want to thank you for the time that you took to learn a little bit about Cost Plus Processing, and most importantly, why we are the future of merchant processing.
And so we got signed and we stayed on the road.
So being signed, what was that first deal signage? You remember what that was? What did they give you? Because first deals aren't always the best ones.
It was $285,000.
Okay, but that's over.
But you had to make the record. I mean,
right.
And at the time, you were having to pay a studio, so you'd be in the studio for 4 weeks at like $700 a day. Mm-hmm. Except, there's some studios were $1,000 a day, but it was like $700 a day. I think it was the rate we paid. But it was a big deal because we were able to pay ourselves a per diem to be out there in LA. We recorded it up in the valley north of LA, and the studio we recorded at was called Rumbo Recorders. And Rumbo Recorders was owned by the captain and Tennille.
Okay.
Do you remember Captain?
I remember Captain.
Love,
I didn't know about the rumble.
Love will keep us
you're
together. Yeah.
That's right.
Think of me, baby. So the Captain and Tennille owned the studio. And Guns N' Roses recorded Appetite for Destruction there. When we were recording our album, the Traveling Wilburys were right across the hall. That's where I saw my first Beatle.
Yeah.
And saw George Harrison walking up down the hall. I saw a Beatle. And that was cool. And then Ted Nugent and the Damn Yankees were down the hall. And we already knew Ted because we'd played some shows for Ted up in, he was cool.
You were in jail with him.
Yeah. Well, that was way before they went to jail.
That's right.
He carried us, so that's a whole nother long story. But anyway, so we were out there recording, and the Tony Tennille was as sweet as she could be. The Captain was a weird son of a bitch. I mean, he would step into a closet instead of talk to you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he just but Tony was sweet. She'd come and hug you next to. But Nugent had a couple of bales of hay set up out back, and he was bow hunting practicing out back behind where the lounge in the studio was, and it was a very sterile environment for us being in that nice, really nice Los Angeles studio, owned by the Captain and Tennille, and so we went north of the valley even, and we went and we bought 40 chickens and roosters. And we brought them back to the studio, and we took one of Ted Nugent's bales of hay, and we strewn it all out in the studio. And there was a drum booth that we didn't use, but it was in the 70s they'd put the drums in a drum booth. And we put we put some hay in there, and at night the chickens would go in there and roost. And the chickens were in there for a while. And every night we were recording the Lumberjack song. This with me playing the chainsaw.
Yeah.
And that song had to be captured live.
Right.
And so Brendan, the producer, would come out and follow me around with the chainsaw while I sing it and play it. And we just took the best take and put it on the record. And at the end of that song, if you listen to it, I throw the chainsaw down, and he follows me with the microphone, and I'll step into that drum booth where the chickens are, and I'm going, yeah, and you hear, but we left it on the record.
Yeah.
If you listen to the end of that record, you can hear those chickens and stuff, but they were actually in the studio with us.
That's funny.
And so one day, we go to the studio, and we walk by, and there's George Harrison and Jeff Lynne and the Wilburys. Hey guys, and so we go in and we go into the studio, but they weren't really friendly when we walked by that day. They were kind of like just standoffish. We're like, okay, they must be having a bad day. So we
they and chickens.
Well, no. So we go on into the studio, and then Tony Tennille comes and goes, Jesse, may I have a word with you?
Oh.
Sure. So we go back to her office and go in that office and go back through another door and go back into this other office, and she's shutting the doors, and we go back and she went, I went, what? She's whispering to me. I'm like, what? And she goes, one of the chickens is dead.
Oh.
I said, one of the chickens is dead? She's going, shh. She was so freaked out because they thought they were going to end up having protesters, that people would find out that in L.A. that there was a dead chicken in the studio.
They just need a reason to protest.
And I said, it's a damn chicken.
Yeah.
I said, where I come from, the farmer steps on 3 of them to feed the rest of them. Are you serious?
Yeah.
And she goes, wait. And I said, we didn't kill it. Chickens just die.
Right.
Sometimes they die. I don't know. We're feeding them. Can't. I don't know what. It's a damn chicken. and she's tripping. You got to get those birds out of here. We don't want it. We don't want the protest. We don't want nothing up here if word gets out about it.
Really.
So I'm thinking, what am I going to do with these damn chickens? So we go to the pet supply place, and we bought these little cardboard pet carry-on things that I could put a cat in or take on an airplane or something.
Yeah.
And we got a bunch of them, and we boxed each one of the chickens up, and I wrote the name, and we had them couriered down to Geffen Records, and we addressed to each one of the executives. Everybody at the company got a free chicken.
Got a free chicken. Who got the dead one?
Yeah, so we got So we get back to
that's some Italian stuff. That's some mafioso stuff right there.
So
exactly. Got a dead chicken, boy.
You gotta look out what that means. So we're back to working, and just and I'll get a phone call, and the John Collatter's assistant going, Jesse, everybody's flipping out. Nobody wants the responsibility of a live animal. So what are you doing? Why? And David Berman, who was the guy that eventually called me about that lawsuit that I told you about, right? At the time, his first introduction to me was he had gotten one of those chickens. He had just had his office remodeled. He came back from lunch. The box was on his desk. He opened it up. The chicken jumped out, scared the hell out of him, and took a dump on his floor. and Berman lost his mind. But anyway, so one of the guys that worked at Geffen Records, which was actually the junior A&R guy that had come to see us in Atlanta, he calls me and says, "Man, everybody's mad." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I got to figure out what to do with those chickens." He goes, "Don't worry about it. I'm going to take them to my dad. He's got some land up north of here. He wants to." And it was several years later, I got a phone call from him one day. He goes, "I just want to let you know that my dad called me today and said that last chicken, one of the last chickens you gave him, finally died." And, after all those years. But yeah, so I mean, John called us, the guy that signed us to our record. He calls and says, he goes, "What are you doing, Wild Man?" And I said, "Well, we're just in here making the record, And he goes, "Well, they tell me you're cutting up the captain's furniture." And I said, "Yeah," because we were grabbing stuff from the studio at night and cutting stuff up with recording the Lumberjack song. And we were cutting their furniture up.
Oh, boy.
And I thought I was in trouble.
You didn't think that was going to, create a problem?
Man, at night when they would leave, we'd go up in the attic and all those props from the Captain and Tennille TV show was up there. So like this great big large captain's we were up there wearing all these outfits and stuff from the TV show, all this stuff. I mean, we were just we were wreaking havoc on those guys. But I thought, I might be in a little bit of trouble on this one. And he says, "I don't care if you're cutting up that damn console." He said, "You better be making a great record." And that's all he said.
Yeah.
And but yeah, we got out of there and didn't look back.
So talk about your record real quick. What inspired you to come up with some of your songs and some of the names of the songs? Like, you got some very unique names on your album.
Yeah, well,
Did you get in trouble for any of those?
Well, it's like you want a hardcore story is that the song that Kmart banned us for, because we had the Lumberjack and Dirty Little Mine and Down on Me and When Will It Rain. I mean, all those were top 10, top 5 rock records at radio.
Right.
That record had 5 singles on it. It was unheard of. Mm-hmm. It was a bit, at a time that, we were out up against Nirvana and Soundgarden and everything. We were on the same label as Nirvana, but that record just broke through and just straight up pure rock and roll, and sold a couple of million records. And it was just unbelievable what happened against the grain, because the odds were so against us on everything. Mm-hmm. But those songs came from, just honest places. The song Down on Me, before the band was together, I was starving and I was at a party that, or the band was just together, and I was at a party, and the singer for Kansas, Dust in the Wind and Carry On Boy, Steve Walsh, he was at that party. And he was sitting there hearing people tell me how great the band was. Y'all's band's killer. You're great. I love it. And I'm going, "Thank you. And he strikes up a conversation and he says, "Hey," he goes, "Maybe we should get together and write something sometime." Mm-hmm. And I said, "Okay." And so I took him at face value. I thought he was serious.
Right.
So I went home and wrote Down on Me, thinking that would be a great song for them to record. And, because I heard this big production with it. I didn't hear it like we do it. I heard it to be produced more like the Foreigner song, "I Want to Know What Love Is." Mm-hmm. I want to know what love is. I heard it in the same sense. I feel the sun shining down on me. I feel the heat of love. And a chorus coming up.
Soul in there,
too.
Yeah.
And just, I heard it being a little bit more orchestral produced, just a really power song like I Want to Know What Love Is, in that vein. And Kansas it was what ended up being their last major label record deal that they had. They had not recorded yet. And I thought, they need this song. They need a hit song like this, because Steve Walsh is a phenomenal singer.
Right.
I mean, Dust in the Wind's one of the best vocal performances ever, right?
Sure.
And I'm thinking, I get a chance to write, and I've already written the song. I was going to let him do whatever he wanted to it and say he wrote it too. Uh-huh. It didn't matter to me.
Sure.
I just wanted a hit.
Right.
And so, you're going to freak out. This is a true story. I swear on my kids, this is a true story. So I pursued him to present that song to him, and he blew me off.
Really?
And I kept pursuing him, and he blew me off again. Then his wife came to me and wanted to know. I was managing this bar in Atlanta, and his wife came to me and said, I've got a band that I'm working with, and we're going to be doing a showcase. Can they play in your bar? And I said, sure. And I thought that would be a chance again for me to talk to her husband.
Right.
And they show up, and I pulled him to the back, and I played a bit of that song for him, and he blew me off. So time goes on. His album gets recorded without that song. His album flops without that song.
Right.
We get signed to our record deal. We're doing pre-production for our record deal in Atlanta, downtown. And while we're in the studio with our record company guy reviewing the songs that we were going to potentially record, and he wanted to hear everything we'd ever written. And I put that song in the mix for the record company guy to throw away because I didn't hear us doing it.
Right.
So, but I said, we're just going to do it so he'll throw it away. It'll be something he can toss. We had played it. He said, I love that song. The record company guy said, I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm going, because I didn't hear us doing it. And because it still sounded strange to me to think about us doing that song.
Right.
And
But you did it good.
But the door opens up and in walks the singer from Kansas into that rehearsal room.
Just like that.
Swear to God. Strike everything I love dead.
That works in funny ways.
Right
man.
now, God strike everything I love dead right now. Steve Walsh walked into that room, and I'm going, what in the hell? And John Collider was going, look, everybody, it's the singer for Kansas. And we're going, hey, Steve, what's up, you know? And I'm sitting there going, and so they talked for a minute, and then Steve left. And John goes, how great is that? The singer of Kansas just came to into your rehearsal. And I went, you know that song we just played that you said that you liked? He goes, yeah. And I said, I wrote that for him.
Yeah.
And he blew me off because I thought they could use it on that last album they did. And John looked at me and goes, well, do you know what the moral to that story is, Jesse Dupree? And I said, what? And he goes, you've got a hit. He don't. And I swear to God, on everything I love, that is a true story.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so true.
That's
and
right.
And so that was so that's where that song came from. When Will It Rain, which is about the heat burning, being so hot, it's burning a hole through your shoes. And I wrote that one night. My son was born. He was colicky. I was desperate again, and I go down in the basement and literally set a little 4-track recorder up, freezing my ass off in the cold in that basement, and wrote that song about being hot. Yeah. And being desperate. And so that's where, I mean, the song just came from places like that.
What about She Loves My Cock?
She Loves My Cock came from
that was a rooster, right?
Okay, now before I tell you the story, I'm going to let you know that
you talk about farms, talk about chickens.
I've got a daughter. Okay?
Yeah, me too.
I've got a daughter. And my daughter is growing up, and my wife did a really good job of sheltering her from all the stuff that I was about, because she didn't want her to be discriminated against with her friends and everything else, right? But my wife is amazing with the kids and she, with all of it, and she's been amazing. So, but in spite of me, so I'm telling you that because it's going to come back around to that. We had the song "She Loves My Cock" and we released the album, and it Kmart banned the record because of it. And we ended up having a big dispute with them. We shot the video for I Stand Alone, protesting Kmart not carrying the record. So we went and played for all the Kmart shoppers abruptly, just showed up and did it. So this whole story plays out. I'm going to jail for indecent exposure. All these things happened through all these years. And She Loves My Cock has always just been part of what we were known for. So fast forward to just a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
My daughter's in college now, and she's a senior, and she's about to graduate from Berry College. Right. Dean's List.
It's awesome.
Incredibly smart, somewhat sheltered from the life that I've lived. You know, she knows about, but you know, I don't know how much she knows or why. Sure. We never really
talked about it.
I mean, but yet, I mean, we're really close, but that's just never really came up. So we're sitting at dinner one night, and she's talking about Atlanta, the Music Midtown Festival.
Yep.
And I said, who are you excited about going to see? And she says the Foo Fighters, and she's naming off these artists and some that I didn't know of. And she says Iggy Pop, and I'm going, whoa, hold on a minute. You know who Iggy Pop is? And she says, Dad, yeah. And I said, Iggy changed my life. When I was 20 years old, which is her age, Iggy changed my life. And she goes, why is that? And I said, because Iggy had a bootleg record that was so dirty that it would make you go take a shower after it. I mean, there's no rap album, nothing ever has ever been as vulgar and dirty as Iggy Pop and the Stooges bootleg record. I think it was Live at Cobo or something. I mean, it's like some of the most vulgar stuff you've ever heard. And when I heard that as a young kid, I thought, there's no boundaries.
Right.
There's no boundaries. Because he had a song called Rich Bitch, and he had another song called Cock in My Pocket, and he had all these vulgar songs. I'm stopping there because it was really vulgar,
right.
Some of the stuff. And you can find it on iTunes. It's terrible. Right. Bootleg sounded, but it's sonically terrible, but it's the greatest energy. And go ahead, throw your bottles, throw your caps. You paid $5 to get in, and I'm making $10,000, so screw you. Your bitch will still want to sleep. With me. He was just really just vulgar. And I mean, when you hear the rest of the album, but he had this song called "Cock in My Pocket," and so at the time, the bass player in the band had this old, terrible, vintage porno called "Anytime, Any Place." I think it was called. And it was shot back in the 70s, early 70s, with like one camera. Mm-hmm. Back in the 70s, you know what the porns looked like from the 70s, right?
With the black and white.
Terrible, And so there's a scene. So I'm telling my daughter, I said, so Iggy Pop changed my life. He had all these vulgar songs. And there was a porno that the guys in the band had, and we used to watch it and laugh because it was almost comedy. It was so terrible. Mm. And the lead character in the movie, and my daughter is studying film at Berry. So she's into making, not porns, but she's making movies.
What kind of
she's making movies.
Foul under your footsteps there.
I'll kill her. So anyway, she's into this stuff, right? And so into the filmmaking. So I said, yeah, there's this terrible porno, and the camera was just locked down. She knows what I meant by that. There was this stationary camera, and the lead character's name was Skinner, and there was this woman. And she's performing an act on Skinner, and the camera's locked down from his chest down to his knees, and you just see the front part of her face because the camera don't move. And she's doing her business, and she looks up at the television top of the TV set because the camera don't move. So she's just looking up, and she says, "Oh, Skinner, I love you." And then she goes back to doing her stuff, and then you hear him say, "You don't love me. You just love my God." And we're 20-year-old kid, you're going, we were laughing. We thought that was so funny. And, I mean, the guys are hanging out, you don't love me. And it becomes a thing you just say all the time, And, he's got a girlfriend now. He don't love her. She just loves it. She don't love him. She just loves it. Whatever. And we were just saying it all the time to where we kind of got just numb and complacent about saying it because it was nothing for us to say it. And so I wrote a song about it.
Now listen, did you write all your music?
But so here's the funny thing. So the punchline. So I wrote a song about how arrogant men can be about their penises. Yeah. And so I'm explaining this to my daughter. So we have this whole conversation where I tell her this story.
Finally, after all these years.
And I say, and so I wrote a song, and I didn't know I assumed she probably knew what I was talking about. But I said, so I wrote a song about how guys can be goofy and funny about their penises, and and we just said that as goofy kids. And she sat there eating the whole time I'm talking, and she stops eating, and she looks at me, she goes, "Well, Dad, that sure would have been nice to know a couple of years ago," because I guess her friends had been asking her about it, whatever, and she goes, "That sure would." She sure that sure would have been nice to know a few years ago.
Yeah,
it's an interesting thing having a daughter and being in this business, But yeah, I write songs, and I've been fortunate enough to write songs with DMC from Run DMC. He's a good buddy of mine. Yeah, nice. He's a great guy. Awesome. Daryl. And then Brian Johnson from AC/DC.
Cool.
And
Do you prefer writing over singing, performing? What do you like the most? You know, there's so much that goes into a song. A lot of people don't realize.
Well, there's nothing that takes the place of the couple of hours on stage.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing.
You're a showman.
There's nothing better. I mean,
you're good at it.
I mean, a great show with the crowd right there with you. Mm-hmm. The lights are hot. The sound is loud. It sounds great. It's the power, the energy. You got all the guys in the band moving as one. I mean, it's right there equal to sex. It's good at it. I mean, it's, you know, and I mean, it's like, it's the most euphoric. There's nights, and I think about that. I was thinking about this the other day. There's nights where the air is so thick and the sound is just wrapped up around you, and it's just, and it's just the band and the crowd and the spotlight, and you're just looking looking into these. You're just looking into that light. And it's the most euphoric, out-of-body experience. You don't even know.
I'm jealous, man. You're making me jealous.
No,
it's
not even fair. There's no way to even describe. There's no way to describe it.
Yeah.
To people, and I always think. I mean, I hadn't always thought this, but over the last, handful of years, there's not a night that I don't walk on stage that I don't know this could be my last. At some point, I'm just going to. It'll end at some point, right?
I mean,
I say that, and Mick Jagger's 100 years old.
Right. He's out there shaking it, right?
As long as I can still do it, I'm going to do it. But I mean,
How many shows you got scheduled this year?
We'll do about somewhere between. Right now we're on track to do about 60 or so. We'll probably we may end up doing about 60 or 70 shows.
Yeah, that's incredible. So you're still out there getting it done, man.
Yeah, we're doing a couple of week run in March up through the Midwest of Virginia, and then over into Illinois and out to Nebraska and back, and then in April that's a couple of week run, and then in April we'll go out to the West Coast playing the Whiskey a Go Go in LA and,
nice.
all those legendary places. Yeah.
Talk about some of the challenges though. Being in a band, like a lot of bands, there's a lot of conflicts. Things happen. People get their egos hurt a little bit. Some people want more input than others. Have you had any of those issues with your band?
Knock on wood, and I don't want to jinx myself. Yeah, I mean, we could all blow up tomorrow, but we're
Have you kept everybody's been together?
Yeah, I mean, it's just we haven't suffered.
What's some of your biggest adversities?
We haven't. It's really funny, man, because, and again, we could blow it up tomorrow and never not get along ever again. But over the last 35 years, we just haven't had that drama that other bands have. I mean, we everybody's got their space, and we respect each other. And Chris and Jeff are brothers, so they probably have the most adversity with each other. I mean, they
grew up having adversity.
They grow up at it. But
they look out for each other too, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, but we're all equally tight. I mean, it's not like that. I mean, we all. Roman and I ride Harleys a lot, and we both share a passion for that, and we all, I mean, we all leave all that shit at home. I mean, I've been blessed. I mean, got great guys.
No, that's important. Obviously, being a singer though, you are the part of the band, most important part, wouldn't you say? I mean,
well, you couldn't tell them that.
It's just a reality.
I'm just saying that
newsflash.
No, I'm saying
without this guy, there is no Jackyl.
But I'm just telling you that they each own their space in the same way.
Yeah.
So I mean, when I say you can't tell them that, I mean it's like that. When you see the show, you'll see how it all moves together.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, but
you got an equal level of respect for everybody.
I'll tell you what. Yeah, but it's not being. I'm not just saying that or being. You come see the show. We're kind of like a southern version of the Rat Pack with Dean Martin and those guys. I mean, it's with Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin. I mean, we all kind of. It's funny because we're like Roman's like Sammy Davis and Chris is like Peter. What I'm trying to blank on his name. Peter, and then you got Frank and Dean between me and Jeff. I mean, it's just funny. We just
everything works though.
The personalities are really similar to that.
Yeah, that's
Peter
good.
Crawford. Yeah. Peter Crawford. But Chris is a lot like Peter Crawford, tall, lanky, and got that same kind of disposition. Roman can do some of the impressions and mimic people, and he's got this Sammy Davis Jr. kind of a vibe about him, and Jeff is Dean Martin cool, and I'm just down holding it down, trying to be all the Frank I can be. Yeah. It just works.
That's good. What happens though when you do have? I mean, obviously on the road, everybody's getting a little bit older. You get sick, something happens. I mean, how do you fill in the gaps when stuff like that goes wrong? You know, you got a show to do.
You hit the stage and you get it.
Get it no matter what. You get up. Yeah.
We don't cancel. We don't back out. I mean,
have you ever canceled any shows? Never. That's a tribute to you. You know, what you guys stand for, which is huge because not everybody can say that. You know, some of the biggest people have canceled shows because they were afraid that they couldn't give their best, so that would hurt them. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
So
we've had, I'll correct that. There was a death in the family and that was once but I mean, as far as we don't cancel from, I mean, if you're sick, if I died tomorrow and we got these run of dates coming up, if the tickets are on sale, they'll prop my dead ass up there in a coffin and dance around me. I'll just tell you that. I mean, it won't be no canceling a show.
That's funny.
Just because somebody died.
Yeah, that's funny. So looking back at two big questions I want to ask. Number one, what is the best thing that that sticks out that you've been able to accomplish throughout your career?
I mean, again, I don't want to give some stereotypical answer, but I mean the fact that I've been able to do what I love and provide for my family, to the fact that I mean there's not a day goes by that I don't, and we got great kids. I mean that's how you got a great kid.
Yeah,
I mean
yeah,
it's rock. I mean it's I mean when you can achieve that, that's probably your biggest success, right?
Right.
Is your kids, right? Yeah. And so I'd say that just raising great kids is probably my biggest accomplishment. And again, my wife is great, but I mean, we raise responsible kids. I mean, people talk about, they're talking about gun control, or they're talking about or abortion, or any of these social issues out there. If you raise your kids right, those are not issues.
Right.
If it comes, it really just comes down to being parents. And if I can do it, being in a rock band,
right.
Obviously it's not that impossible, right? I mean, if I can produce responsible citizens, and it's just about communication, but anyway, so that's probably my biggest accomplishment. And then the others just to be able to, I mean, I didn't drink for 18 years until I got to be good friends with Brian Johnson from AC/DC, and he invited me to come down to his house for a New Year's Eve party he was having. Uh-huh. And so I fly down and I'm staying at Brian's house, and we actually loaded up in the car and went over. There was a retired Wall Street broker was having a New Year's Eve party, and he was married to a Japanese lady, and her mom was over from Japan, and they were cooking an authentic Japanese meal. So we go over, and it was me and Brian Johnson and the president of Uniroyal Tire and this comedian named Brendan, who was on the BBC, one of Brian Johnson's good friends. Funny as hell. And we all go over to this retired Wall Street broker's house, and he's got a wine cellar, like huge.
Right.
And I didn't drink, but the guy would come out of the wine cellar and he'd say, well, this particular bottle is 100 years old. It's got to be drank in the next 15 minutes or it's not going to be good. And so we got to pour it through cheesecloth. Or this particular bottle, the year the grapes were grown, they had a drought and they had to bring the water in by mule and the fungus grew on the whatever. And so Brian's going, you got to try it, me son. You got to try it. You got to try it. So by the end of the night, we were drunk as skunks on wine. So that's how I got back to drinking again. And then that ultimately led to putting out the Jesse James bourbon and the
Jesse James bourbon.
And the Jesse James
the
Devil's Devil cinnamon whiskey.
Yeah, you got a lot of good stuff here. What got you? So, I mean, what was one? I mean, where did you go to start this? Like, where did you do this? It's obviously not in Georgia, is it?
I was building brands for Sidney Franks and Zippo and working with Harley Davidson in the beginning and stuff. And I thought, well, I needed to build my own brand. And Michael Ballard and I were, and he was starting the Full Throttle brand. And he goes, let's do a Jesse James beer. And so we were initially doing a Jesse James whole wheat non-filtered beer. And the reason we were doing that is because Boulevard beer was just starting to take off in Kansas City. And I had a Boulevard beer and I thought, this is really good. I'd never drank a wheat beer. But what was screwing it up for everybody, for blue collar America, the people that I run around with, nobody was going to be drinking a damn beer with an orange in it. You'd be,
until today they do
a little bit of a Lightfoot thing to do that, right?
And Blue Moons will sell.
Yeah. So but I thought, you know what, from my people,
right?
They ain't gonna hear about putting no damn orange in no damn beer,
no fruit at all.
You drink a damn. So I thought I'm going to introduce some whole wheat non-filtered beer in just Jesse James brand, and we're going to put it out. So we were brewing it out of Kansas City, where up there just north of St. Joe, where the original Jesse James was from. Gotcha. And we were brewing it from up there, and they could only do about 600 cases of pop. And because I had relationships with consulting Sidney Franks, I had distribution in Kansas and Missouri and Wisconsin and South Dakota, and we were doing our thing with it. But I had people get into a couple of months, and people go, "I drank one of your beers the other night. I couldn't walk out of the bar." I'm going, "Hell yeah,
yeah, that was good.
that sounds good." Somebody else go, "Man, I drank a beer the other night. I woke up, I was passed out." I mean, not. I'm going, okay. So I started hearing that, and then I had somebody go, "Man, I had a 6-pack of your beer in the refrigerator and it exploded." And I went, "Uh-oh." So I called the brewery and I went, "Hey, I got people saying they can't walk out of a bar after drinking one beer and their beers are exploding. What?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, we don't pasteurize it. So it just keeps fermenting in the bottle."
Oh, shoot.
And I'm going, "You're going to get me sued."
Right.
And so I'm freaking out. He goes, "Well, we're just going to start pasteurizing." I said, "Dude, you got to tell people that." And so luckily I got through that without getting sued. So I was sitting down with one of the distributors one night and I said, "Hey, I'd like to, I was going to do the craft beer thing, but that market was already overcrowded."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I'd like to
a lot of money in it though.
I'd like to get in the whiskey, And he goes, "Well, I know a guy sitting on $5 million worth of bourbon because it has to be aged, and stuff."
Right.
So I partnered up with a company initially, and we grew it and started being successful. And they ended up having some issues they had to deal with. And so we agreed to separate, and they still bottle and co-pack for me on some of the stuff. But Michael and I, Ballard, he got a distillery in Trimble, Tennessee. Gotcha. And so we started distilling and bottling it there.
Yeah.
So we got this here's a brand new, it's a 90 proof. This is the honey. I thought it was the.
Yeah,
you do have the.
We went and bought it.
Or you brought the honey.
Yeah.
She brought the.
Okay. She brought the honey.
Got it.
The honey bee.
Thank you. Yeah. So but the honey and the regular, and we got a 90 proof Tennessee whiskey. It's really great.
Yeah.
So but you can find it in all the stores. United Distribution is our distributor in Georgia, and then we're with RNDC in a lot of states and Breakthrough Beverage in Missouri, just different distributors. But you can find it out there.
Yeah. No, it's out there. I think we got a Total Wine, right? Did you get a Total Wine?
400. It was that new liquor store.
Nice.
Yeah.
So local people, see, that's
Yeah,
good.
I like
it's
it,
in
yeah.
local people stuff. So, Jesse, you're super, super cool. Got a lot going on. Has anybody ever thought that you were the Jesse James making motorcycles? You ever heard that one before?
Yeah, well, I know Jesse. I mean,
I know.
We've known each other for quite a while.
Yeah.
I mean, people hear Jesse James and they'll that whether it's him or what I mean.
Yeah.
It happens, but I mean, the band and the TV show. I mean, he's got his clique, I got mine, but we both are in the motorcycle.
Yeah, you're both in motorcycles.
Yeah. He makes some badass stuff.
Yeah, he does.
And Billy Lane I don't know if you know, Billy Lane makes incredible choppers. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not.
Not familiar with Billy, no.
Yeah,
no.
Billy's a badass. And Kendall Johnson out of North Carolina. There's a lot of custom bike builders that we became really close friends with over the years.
Yeah, very cool. What do you like more? Being in the movie business? I know you're in movies. You've done MTV. You've done, producing and stuff. You've done music. You're performing. You're in the liquor. You're an entrepreneur. You're a business owner. What do you like the most?
If I die and I haven't performed at least one open heart surgery, I'm going to be disappointed because I've done everything else.
Yeah.
And I've gotten away with more than I ever should have, but it's been because of great relationships and good people. But I just like turning new corners and working with the Harley Davidson Motor Company has been absolutely amazing because I grew up. I've got a photograph of the day they brought me home from the hospital, and my mom's holding me on the seat of my dad's panhead, and fresh out of the hospital. So I've had a connection with the Harley Davidsons from the beginning, and my dad always riding one and such, and I'm an avid rider. So it's a big honor to work with the company that and to be sitting in a room with Bill Davison, from the Harley Davidson family, and I'll be with Bill and Karen Davison down in Daytona coming up for Daytona Bike Week, but there's a lot of great people that work at that company, and it's probably the last, if not probably the only ever American company that has achieved the status of having people tattoo their logo across their back.
Right. Or ass.
Yeah. Or wherever. So on their face, they'll beat your ass if you got a problem with it. I mean, those people are serious, diehard believers in the lifestyle.
Yeah, you talk about branding too. I mean, they did it. I mean,
Harley wrote the book.
Yeah.
Harley wrote the book and didn't even have to try. They
apparel,
they just did it for being badass, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But the new Harleys are absolutely amazing. If you haven't, if you haven't went out and test drove one, you should. And these dealerships have these riding academies where you can go in and learn how to ride.
Yep.
And and I suggest everyone to go give it a shot. It's that first taste of freedom when you get on that bike and you hit the wind for the first time. If you've never done it, there's nothing like it. It's incredible.
No, for sure. I ride a little bit. I got an iron horse, so I got a slammer. So
That's great,
yep. So, but and I actually did that. I took the riding course. Actually, it was a Honda at the time. Yeah. So I got motorcycle license. Rocco wants to get it done. So he's next.
It's the thing to do. I mean, you think, well, riding class, I can ride a bicycle, I can ride a motorcycle, whatever.
It's different.
But they really do an amazing job with their riding academies. Yep. And there's people that go take the riding academy that's been riding for years, and they go and because they instill some really good practices. Right. I could stand to go take another course myself.
Well, I got one vision for you, man. I don't know if you ever do this. Okay. But I could totally see it. You being on stage performing, everybody in the audience, the whole arena, all they're selling is Jesse James alcohol.
You got to know I love that.
Let's go. Let's go. We need to get that going.
Well, if you come to Sturgis, that's what you'll see.
That's what we need.
Full Throttle Saloon. It's the 85th anniversary of the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. We invite you to come up there. We have 1,000 RV hookups, 300 cabins, tent camping for days, an all-you-can-eat breakfast buffet, a dinner buffet, a convenience store. Harley Davidson put a big building on the property with free Harley Davidson tattoos, pinstriping, barber shop, Eagle Riders on the property, rent motorcycles if you fly in and need a bike. We got 3 racetracks and a landing strip for planes to take you up parachuting. We have the largest stage in South Dakota, 300 voluptuous go-go dancing bartenders. It's beyond Thunderdome for people who love badass motorcycles, beautiful women, and a cold belly washer, which happens to be Jesse James Bourbon. And it's on the first week of August. We'll see you there.
There you go.
PappyHoyleCampground.com. Make your reservation.
And there you have it, folks. You heard it from Jesse James himself, man. Be there. Go to Sturgis, baby. First week in August, okay? We put all the details down here in the link and stuff. And remember, as your boy Wham Bam always says, if your life was a movie, would it be worth watching? And if the answer is no, stop being ordinary and start being extraordinary. Till next Wednesday, I'm your boy. I'm said, as I always do, stay positive, baby, and keep testing negative. We'll see you next Wednesday.